incident or disaster. Disasters are not merely large incidents. They're far more complex and have a greater consequence on a community and require a coordinated effort across various agencies. An incident will have some level of community disruption, but will not affect the community's ability to function. Incidents can be managed by responding agencies using their own resources or with minimal assistance from outside agencies. Key definitions. Disaster management involves arrangements about managing the potential adverse effects of an event, including arrangements for mitigating, preventing, preparing for, responding to, and recovering from a disaster. Disaster management is all-encompassing. Disaster operations are activities undertaken before, during, or after an event happens to help reduce loss of human life, illness or injury to humans, property loss or damage to the environment, including, for example, activities to mitigate the adverse effects of the event. Disaster operations are confined to the actual event before, during, and after. The past decade has verified that Queensland has a very complex environment. Natural and non-natural threats and disasters, such as tropical cyclones, floods, bushfires, storms, oil spills, and pandemics, have all taken their toll on communities, infrastructure, businesses, and the environment. It's important to be aware of the types of hazards and potential disasters that are likely to occur, and to understand the risks associated with these hazards. Legislation. Disaster management arrangements are applied across a range of circumstances and must adhere to the requirements of the Disaster Management Act 2003, or the Act, and the Disaster Management Regulation 2014. At times, legislation other than the Act may provide powers more suited to an event, such as the Public Safety Preservation Act 1986, that provides extraordinary powers to assist police with the management of a rapid onset natural event. Other departments may have legislation that is more appropriate for a particular event and is readily administered by their own officers. In determining the appropriate legislation to apply to a disaster event, a balance needs to be found between the requirement for powers under a declaration of a disaster situation and the practical administration of appropriate powers in other legislation. Disaster Management Act 2003 and Disaster Management Regulation 2014. Where necessary, the Act provides for the declaration of a disaster situation, which enlivens extraordinary powers that may be used by District Disaster Coordinators, or DDCs, and declared disaster officers to assist with the management of an event. The Act makes provision for establishment of disaster management groups at state, district, and local levels, preparation of plans and guidelines, declaration of disaster situations, establishing the Office of the Inspector General of Emergency Management, and ensuring communities receive information about preparing for, responding to, and recovering from disasters. The Disaster Management Regulation 2014 describes the membership, meeting requirements, and appointments of chairpersons of the state group, and the membership, meeting requirements, and appointments of chairpersons of district and local disaster management groups.